Before I've sat down to record this video right now, I've genuinely asked myself, what are some life-changing books? What are some like life-changing self-improvement books that I've read? Not only like the ones that you get like a couple of insights from, then you forget about them, you put them on a bookshelf and like you'll never reread them till the day you die. But what are some books that I've read which have actually changed the way I look at the world, the way I see things and people and just things how they are. Like, what are some books which I've read which have changed just my perspective on life? And today I've got 6 books, and we will go in random order. So I'm going to just give a briefly overview and summary of what I've read and what I've learned. Probably like someday in the future I'll all review them in my book series. I have already reviewed one book though from this whole stack that I have right here. So let's start. The first one that I have is The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. This is a bloody massive book. It's something like 600 pages. This book is exactly what the title says, The Laws of Human Nature. So, how does the human creature operate? On what laws is our sub and unconscious brain, what like on what laws is it operating? Because we go about our days, we usually are like quite mindless. We usually just go around like in our thoughts, and we don't even understand why we do certain things, why we have certain patterns, why we choose to make friends with these people and not with them, why we react to like certain things in a certain way, etc., etc. It's like, why are we the way we are? It's like this question is, it is profound to say the least. But this book it has exactly the answer. So the laws of human nature. There are exactly 18 laws in this book, and there are laws on irrationality, narcissism, like generational myopia, aggression, fickleness, conformity, etc., etc. Like there are a bunch of laws in this book, and it's a tough read. It's a tough read. I'm not going to lie; it's pretty hard to read. It's not so. I wouldn't even say accessible. It's pretty accessible for everyone. It's just like you need to go through 600 pages, just like reading this stuff. It's not boring. It's not boring at all. It's just like it's a pretty tough read. But after just I read this book, I my whole perspective on the human creature, like on the our humans, has just changed because I see certain patterns occurring with like irrationality, or somebody's like a narcissist, or somebody's like too aggressive, and I just know for a fact like why is he behaving in a certain way. I like you can after I read this book, like I totally understand where this compulsive behavior come from. Where do self-sabotage, like people who self-sabotage themselves come from? It's like you read this book and you understand the way the human brain is wired. And it is like when you discover the the depths of human brain in those details, as this not even human brain, just the human psyche, the way this book like explains it, man, you've got some like knowledge that is worth a million. Because like literally you read one book and you understand how the human psyche is wired. This is unbelievably valuable. So, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, absolutely amazing book. I've read a couple of like I've read also from Robert Greene, The 48 Laws of Power. Didn't really like it as much as this one. This one like really struck me for like just heavily. So let's move on to, oh, we have got like a thing right here. So Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. So This book is, if you don't read it with a certain degree of cautiousness, it's going to give you sleep anxiety. Because here's the thing, before I've started reading this book, my sleeping schedule was just, and I'm not even going to try to like sugarcoat this, it was fucked up. It was just totally, it was just a total mess. I used to go to bed at like, I don't know, 1 a.m., wake up at 9. Then, like, when I got to self improvement, I used to go to bed at like, I don't know, 10. Then I would stay on my phone for a couple of hours and eventually I would fall asleep at like, I don't know, midnight. And because I was on self improvement, I set myself like a certain, like, sleeping schedule, but not when it comes to like the time that I need to go to bed, but my waking time. And so I would sleep for like, I don't know, 5 hours or so, and I would wake up at 6 a.m. And this was like a firm sleep schedule for me. I would wake up at 6, but I would go to bed at, you know, like at 1 a.m. or something like that. And so my sleeping schedule was shit. It was absolutely disastrous. And I started reading this book exactly at the time when I started kind of like making things a little bit better. I here and there watch some like Huberman podcasts about sleep. Here and there I would watch some like 10-minute short self-improvement videos about like how to like sleep better like 30%. You get what I mean. And then I bought this book. It took me around 2 months to read it. I wasn't on like a book a week challenge at that time. And it's, let me tell you something, it's a very tough read. It's like it's bloody hard. It's bloody hard to read this book because Matthew just throws around some like neuroscience terms, like some like I don't know, some like health stuff. So it's like you will need to Google a lot, but it is, despite being written that way, it's a pretty interesting book. Here's where you need to, here's what I need to say something. Read this book at your own like you need to read this book with full understanding of like it might give you sleep anxiety. So what is sleep anxiety? It is basically when you go to sleep and you become anxious of not being able to fall asleep. And this whole sleep anxiety thing, it creates a negative feedback loop where you you try to go to sleep, you feel anxious because of it. And if, because you feel anxious, you cannot fall asleep, and you feel even more anxious because you cannot fall asleep, and it just continues in this like clusterfuck of just anxiety. And you end up just in this miserable position where you cannot sleep and you thinking about like, and this guy like Matthew, he describes in details what is going to happen, what is going to happen you if you don't sleep well. And the list is pretty atrocious: cancer, dementia, diabetes, like etc. etc. It's like you just get a whole bloody list of diseases. And here's the thing, which I finally understood, that like I've read this book like in fall of 2023, and of course fall of 2023 I couldn't sleep at all because like I was reading a book about sleep. So when I would go to sleep, I'll get this sleep anxiety. You already know that. And it took me around a month to realize that being anxious of going to sleep is like, it is bloody stupidly hilarious, let's just say. And not even stupidly hilarious, it was just like, it was nonsense. And I literally stopped being anxious at around the time. And so here's what this book taught me: sleep is important, but if like, this is what I've learned from life itself. Sometimes you will not sleep. Sometimes you won't be able to fall asleep that quickly, and it's fine, man. The goal of like the main thing that you should get from this book is that sleep is important because nobody sleeps right now in a way that a human animal should. I recently saw a statistic that a normal US adult spends 7 hours 30 minutes time on the screens, but he spends 5 hours and 30 minutes in bed. And this is in bed, not asleep, because like you go to sleep, you need to like you go to bed, you need some time to fall asleep. Then you'll probably wake up in the middle of the night. Then you'll probably need to take like a piss or so. And this 5 hours 30 minutes in bedtime, it is going to be roughly like 4 hours 15 minutes of sleep, which is, if you think about it, it is just insane. It is absolutely bloody. I don't even have a word for this, because what you get from this book also is that like this thing of sleeping for 8 hours, that's true. The human animal should sleep for 8 hours, and like 8 hours, maybe like 7 hours, 50 minutes, maybe 8 hours, 30 minutes, but roughly around like 8 hours, somewhere between like 7 hours, 15 minutes, and 9 hours, somewhere around like that time, like you should sleep. And you should get this amount of sleep. And if you don't, man, better prepare for having sleep anxiety. But this book is absolutely life changing. And so we move on. So here I have, yeah, let's cover those two a little bit later. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'm going to go briefly through this book. It is a Bible. It's just like the Bible of social skills. Everybody knows about that book. It is super popular. It is everywhere. It teaches you the basics of social skills, which might sound like the basics themselves might sound too banal, too simple for most people, because most of us think that we have good social skills. Trust me, like, here's the thing. I've been a very extroverted guy for most of my life. I'm a natural extrovert. So I'm like, it's just easy for me to deal with people. And even when I read this book with my like extroverted temperance, even when I read this book, I got just like a bloody insane amount of insights into just the way how to navigate relationships with people, how to make friends, how to influence them in terms of like your opinions and your ideas, etc., etc. You just get a whole bunch of explanations on how to navigate your relationships with people. And your relationships with people are perhaps like the most important, one of the most important things in your life. So don't consider yourself like a social skills like a master, because you probably aren't. Let's just be honest, you probably aren't a social skills master. You might have a couple of friends, but you are not that great in terms of making friends. Like, let's just be honest right here. And if you will read this book and you would just like put your trust in it, and then you would reread it, like maybe once a year, maybe once 2 year, maybe like 2 years, maybe once half a year. Still, if you would just reread it sometimes, you would have better social skills than 99% of people, because 99% of people think that they don't need this book, when in fact everybody needs it. So, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, absolutely amazing. I have reread this book twice by now. It is absolutely amazing. Okay, so those books I need to have them on the list. So 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I'm not going to talk about this book in details because I have a full review on my channel in my book series. You can just go to the playlist section in on my channel and just find it there. It is a 2-part review, like it's probably roughly 1.5 hours in total of me reviewing this book. It is almost like a Bible for me. Those 12 rules are so essential, so necessary to know. It is it delinquents not to read this book. It is just something that you need to go to Amazon, to your like local bookstore, just like find this book and put your trust in it. Just like read it. Lock yourself in the room until you read. Not in this way, but like you get the point. It just It is fantastic. No matter like what opinion you have, like what opinion you have on Jordan Peterson, like you might dislike his political ideas or like his philosophical, but like this book, it is it is phenomenal. It is just unbelievably good. And here I have, I'm not, as I said, I'm not going to go in details because like I have a 1.5 hour review on my channel. And here we have the sequel of this book, Beyond Order, by, of course, Jordan Peterson. 12 More Rules for Life. I've read this book once, the 12 rules, the original 12 rules, I have read them multiple, I have read this book multiple times, and this one I have read once. Um, I like the 12 rules, the original 12 rules more. This one is good though. It is absolutely good. It's like when I'm saying that this one is not as good as like or might not as good. I have read it once. I maybe like the second time I'll read it, I'll get much more from it. But the thing is, when I'm saying that this like the original 12 rules are better than those 12 rules, it's like I'm comparing the two like probably two of the best self-improvement books out there. I just haven't found anything so good when it comes to like improving your life. Not even like improving, just like having and living a good life as those 12 combined, like 24 rules do. So man, it's like those two books, the Beyond Order and 12 Rules for Life, they're absolutely necessary to read. This is just you I'm not even going to go in details about those books. And for the last, we have a very interesting book. I don't even like know why I've read it, but I liked it a lot, and it changed a lot of my conceptions and ideas and attitudes and beliefs. It just changed a whole bunch of things in my life, and it is going to be a weird book, but it's Ikigai by God. Who wrote this book? Hector Garcia and Francesc Morales, Spanish names, man. Um, this book is so it's interesting. This book is about some of the people, like not the people. It's about an island of in Japan called Okinawa, and on this island is basically the place where most of the super centenarians, all of like the oldest people in the world live. So probably this Okinawa island is in what's called the blue zone. The blue zone is basically a it's basically a term for the five places on this earth where the oldest people live. So it's Okinawa. It is the island of Sardinia in Italy. It is and God like I don't even know what it's called. Some place in California. It's like I don't remember the name of it, but it's somewhere in California. Then um somewhere in Greece and like the Aegean Sea, like some island in Greece, and and I don't bloody remember what was the fifth one, but basically like okay, and those two guys, the like Hector Garcia and like, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Spanish names, but with respect to them, but um, they basically write about the whole philosophy of the people who live up to like I don't know 115 years old on this island of Okinawa, how they live, what they eat, what they practice, how like what work do they have, how they navigate their social relationships, this what's their life philosophy. They basically go into full details about like the life of the supercentenarians out there on this island of Okinawa. And the way this book is structured, just I bought this book because I thought it was on purpose, because the word ikigai itself, it means something different. It's basically a Japanese word, and I don't know Japanese, so like I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm being a translator right here. But ikigai basically means I would say purpose, something like purpose, if I would translate it into English, because here it states something. So ikigai is basically what you love with combines with what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And this whole combination of those four things, so what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, and until you get your ikigai, which basically I think means purpose. As I said, I'm not a translator, I don't know Japanese, so I might be like totally wrong right here, but this is what I get. And this is, I thought originally before I bought this book that this book wasn't like on purpose on finding your ikigai, because back then when I read this I didn't know the purpose that I had. Right now of course I know, and it was a bit different. Of course, it's like I didn't expect to read about like the old people on some like Japanese island, but it was interesting. It was an interesting book. It changed a lot in the way like I view the world, because like if some people live up to 115 years old, which is of course like, yeah man, and one thing to say, it's not only about longevity, it's not only about their age, it's about vitality, it's about like they're man at 105 years old, they're still gardening. Like think about that. Like for me, it is not difficult to imagine because like man, I live in Europe and we have like I don't live in southern Europe, but in southern Europe, like I have been there a couple of times, and I just know like people who can like smoke like bloody trains there, who can drink wine every day and live up to like 200 years old. So the longevity in Europe is it is totally it's something like it is a different breed, but the thing is like it's still interesting to read about the people who just like live to those ages, how they maintain their health and their sanity, their relationships. Where life changing, absolutely. I changed a whole bunch of things in the way I look at the world after I read this book. So yeah, Ikigai by Jesus, Hector Garcia and Francesc Murales. Amazing. I liked it. So those were the 6 life-changing books that I've read on self-improvement. With that, I hope this will help you and see you in the next one.